pretty offender-sided, as well. People are just used to taking this map, man, especially for a lot of these sites. It's just very difficult for the defense to really play around these areas that they want to, even though we've shut up a lot of the windows around this map. Still super difficult to roam. We saw that with Na'Vi up against Oxygen. Doki just not allowed to exist in any sense of the term. So we'll have to see what they want to get rid of, but initially we're going to get rid of the Thatcher. Secondly, it's going to be the Jackal. So this is looking more like a ranked game than anything.
It really is. It's like being back in golf, Stoke. I really think that's exactly what this is. Thatcher and Jackal ban there. Hibana would have been nice.
That's true.
Maverick, you could have thought about it. It all of a sudden plays into that defense is going to be pretty hard. Mirror comes out there as the ban from FURIA. No real surprise there. You're not going to ban the Cade here if you're Elevate. Surely not.
Yeah, no way, especially starting out on defense. I mean, they might do it just because of the quality of life that comes along with that. They're actually going to remove the Valkyrie, which, I mean, that makes so much sense. We get to talk about this op all the time. She's just so very potent with that camera and Nitro Cells combo.
Yeah, you throw somebody like Highs on that camera, or you throw somebody like even Miracle. I mean, Miracle's having the tournament of his life so far. He's currently outperforming Fantasy, so it really is a player to keep your eye on. You can't be giving away that level of information. And to some degree, it may make that down floor site just a little bit more viable if Elevate do choose to get themselves on there. But to kick things off, we're going to be headed up to that top floor.
A very solid ban coming in here from FURIA, as well as Nerix, the top frag right now for Elevate. Most played op thus far just so happens to be Jackal, so making a lot of sense. But since we removed Mira as well, apparently no one really wants to deal with Velvet Shell. Just get rid of that entire operation in general. Looks like we're going to have some fun to start us off, but Sapper's going to throw another curveball at us. It's not the Chunka, it's going to be the Echo instead.
It's a good little bait, that, as well, because it sort of speaks to a down floor presence. You know, you think about the Tachanka, you think about bringing the Cade, you're thinking, yeah, they're maybe going to be going downstairs there, but it's going to be very quickly. I think that FURIA discover it is, in fact, the top floor, and they can change themselves accordingly. A pick that I really like on this bank is the Zero. I think it's such a fantastic operator for bank, and it's really one of the main maps that we see Zero trotted out on because of that ability to send the Argus cameras in and gather that deeper information.
Absolutely the case. We see him a lot on Chalet inside of North America. That's where we see him utilized the most. We've also seen him brought in just because of the secondary hard breach as well from time to time. But yeah, obviously on this map, any extra info that you can get around the space is definitely going to help you out. And those SAM cams, I mean, they're just so fun to use in general. And also you can use them to actually destroy utility as well. It's one of the very convenient things about that. Fantasy's actually going to have the secondary hard breach with this as well. So hard breach abound for FURIA across the board.
It's belt and braces stuff, isn't it? We've got the tin opener, we've got all hard breach that's available aside from the ace. So they're really not going to have any excuses for not having anything open. And it puts a bit of pressure on Lender because he's going to have to be the one to get out there and really start to make a little bit of a nuisance of himself. There's a couple of nades smattered through as well, with the Maverick picking some up too. But Lender's not really wasted any time at all here. He's already got himself into the top of square.
See Elevate playing patiently upstairs right now. FURIA trying to set up the hammer and anvil as they've set up on both sides of the map here. Plenty of repels for FURIA over inside of the lobby space. Miracle currently on ATMs, as well as Fantasy over inside of this area as well. With Linda inside of Square, they're just trying to get some extra info as to what's going on inside of this area, especially over towards stocks. They don't want anybody to try and encroach upon them while they're trying to get up and actually into the top of Square. That's why Linda's going to sit around this space and try and guarantee his teammates make it out alive.
Puts a lot of pressure on early because if Janitor's being watched, it removes quite a nice little rotation there that the defenders can start to make. We're now seeing Sapper is just going to start to reposition a couple of those Yokai drones as the initial pressure is announced by FURIA. They know that this is going to be predominantly a square-sided take for the time being. Was that jump out there that we saw?
It was indeed.
It was hella aggressive. They're like, what are you going to be able to do?
I mean, I don't really know. I honestly, I like it simply because of having the Vector in hand for that, right? It's that close quarters window battle. And if you're able to land your shots and you're really going to be able to tear into somebody, but TCH, and then Lenda fires back as well. Oh, X, we're in for one here.
We really are. If these players are throwing themselves out of windows in round number one, Lord knows what we will end up with when we get toward the end of this. Highs is just getting himself in a bit of a skirmish. He sees the top of the head, exchanges a couple of shots, drops prone, sends the nade, but gets instantly there. Great little refrag coming back. That's going to bring things back 3-3.
Oh, just lock him right in the octagon. They're throwing hands left and right. This is only round one 1, folks. It's down to the 2 versus 2. Rare currently top square. He's gotten the right panel blown, but Fantasy's on the roof, so Rare technically alone inside of the situation right now. Onigiri will be able to continue to add these My Discs to the equation, so this is going to pull away from the potential stuns that Rare has in his pocket, which he has none currently, even though the top of the board is going to tell you guys that he does have 3. So Rare still trying to work for this angle, gets caught off guard by Onigiri here. Fantasy trying to work his way up elevator hallway as well, but Onigiri starting to take some serious damage. Nerix will fall. Onigiri is going to win his first fight and the second. What a turn from him as he lands both of these shots. Incredible stuff here in round 1.
A lot of information available there for Elevate. I think that's the thing that really screams to me at the end of that round. You could see quick fire shots, bang, bang, knew exactly where he was going. Peek on one, straight peek onto the other. There was a bit of information equally for FURIA. We saw some yellow pings coming through. That would indicate the Fancy's got an idea that somebody's going to be playing in there, but time was running a little bit short. Elevate have got away with that one there. They've thrown themselves out of windows. 2 people have thrown themselves out of windows for 1 singular kill. That isn't something that you can continue to do. They've got away with it. They've managed to pick the round up, and I think they're probably going to be pretty happy with themselves, Stokes.
Absolutely, and really coming through in huge dividends has got to be those yokai drones. That's what has to be where we were seeing those pings coming in from. Not a single one of them shot, at least from what I saw, so I'm assuming they were around the map getting their jobs done. Just because you can't sonar blast somebody with them doesn't mean that they're not worth their weight in gold, as we see Elevate able to make that one go off with a bang inside of round 1. And for FURIA, you really got to question, can they try and, gather themselves as a team and try and forcefully take the site away instead of have these solo plays going like we're seeing right now?
Round number 2, we're going to be headed someplace else, going downstairs into the basement. A little bit of a bait out on the 6 pick as well. We saw Sapper go from the castle onto the Cade. There's Chanka being brought this time, and of course Chanka was brought in the first round, so really trying to play those mind games with who is the 6 pick going onto, where is this team going to go. Still, it isn't going to disrupt too much FURIA's lineup. There's only been 1 change. We've changed Highs from a Maverick onto a Sledge. Still got the nades, hasn't got the blowtorch, but realistically should still be able to get a little bit of work done here. It all depends, it all hinges on where the Electroclaws are placed.
Yeah, that's going to be the good news for Elevate if that's who you guys are rooting for at home. They're going to be able to lock up 2 of these hatches, and it's going to be very difficult for FURIA to try and work around that without having the torch at their disposal. They're more than likely going to have to try and get some nades snuck in here to get these hatches open, but it's looking like the 2 mainstays here. The main Red Hall hatch as well as the CCTV hatch as well.
I guess it all depends on what Fancy does with the Argus cameras, right? He could maybe get those into a position, but of course it's a little bit more risky. He's likely not going to be able to do all too much, at least in the immediate part of the round. A little bit of drone work going out here. We've got Jaeger playing at the top there of blue stairs. Typically a position that you'd find somebody playing with a shotgun. For example, we saw FURIA play yesterday. Fancy was playing that position with, the day before yesterday, Fancy was playing that position with a shotgun in hand. With the AR, it just gives you that ability to fight at a little bit of a further distance, but you also have to drop back a little bit sooner, and it looks like some pressure might be coming his way.
Well, Elevate are anything except orthodox, let me tell you. So I'm expecting them to continue to do some very unique things, and that's exactly what we're going to see in this one as DCH will fall off of blue as soon as the hatch gets blown open, but FURIA still with a long road ahead of them. And with these hatches locked up, FURIA isn't going to be able to work the site in the same way that you traditionally would. They're going to have to still try and go in for more than likely a server plant, but trying to apply pressure towards the back end. That's why we see Miracle starting to open up these hatches around this space. DCH will trade himself out as Highs will be able to claim his life, but they're also going to lose quite a bit of information in that regard.
Rare's going to be able to get the wall open. It's going to give him an opportunity to get in, but there's an Evil Eye directly above that breach. The Cade Electroclaw there getting pinged out. Highs' nade has to hit its mark here. He's got to be able to remove that Electroclaw, and then the hatch can be opened above. Good teamwork, good coordination here from FURIA. Time is going to be their enemy, though. They've got the Tachanka to worry about. 12 Molotovs there. That can cut off an inordinate amount of time.
And not only that, but they still have Nay all the way in the back line as well that can use those toxic babes to his advantage. Should start seeing this utility come out here soon as they are inside of the B-bomb site. This is so traditional for Bank. We have seen this time and time again over the years of this utility being chucked in through the red hall and trying to stave off a plant. But also for FURIA, they're getting aggressive on the back end just like we thought they would. Nay will go down. Rare picks up one, but Miracle actually gets fought back inside of Vault. Fantasy will be able to claim yet another as the plant continues to go down for Rare. But what can Nerix Nerix possibly do about this situation since he's down into the 1 versus 3? Does he know that he has an enemy in behind him? Ney might be able to assist him from this position, especially after he gets taken out, trying to hit the pre-fire, but Nerix, it's so very close. The prone angle, he'll actually get Fantasy with Rare on very low HP. This is possible.
It really is. It all depends on the rotation now. FURIA aren't choosing to go up to the hatch inside of open. Instead, they're just going to hold it onto the hatch inside of servers. Rare maybe just give his life away here just to waste a little bit of time, just to gather a little bit more information. The disable starting to be baited out now as Nerix realizes he's on the drone, starts getting pre-fired from the hatch. It was a pinch and a push, and Rare is going to be there to collect that final kill. FURIA bounce back.
Elevate with 1 and Fantasy and the rest of the squad with another. FURIA able to dissect this site, able to get the hatches open. Very risky initially with that Kaid obviously being in play, the way that they had to end up working the map, but I absolutely love what the strategy was. Let's get these hatches open, let's apply pressure to the back end. Elevate won't be ready for this, and clearly they weren't.
Elevate didn't have a clue what was going on there. They really were a little bit caught unawares. The double hatch drop coming in, and that was the advantage that FURIA saw because they were going into that as a clean 5 versus 5. They were able to drop both hatches at the back while still having sufficient pressure. They baited out utility well, but I'll be honest, one wrong move there, couple of missed shots from maybe Miracle or Fantasy, it could have gone entirely different. All of a sudden, you're able then to start denying that plant a little bit further. There was a lot of utility left in the pockets of Elevate players at the end of that round when the plant went down.
Quite a few coin flip plays across the board, but I feel like that's going to be the vibe that we have between these two for most of this best of 3 is all out, unadulterated aggression. They want to fight each other. They want to get in each other's faces. Yes, the utility's there, and it obviously is going to possibly stem some situations, but for the most part, we're going to see them try and just brawl it out, which I'm extremely excited for. We've only had 2 rounds so far. They've been action-packed. We're going to continue this as Elevate heads into open area.
Open area site that has risen in popularity, has changed just a little bit, and typically the extension now comes in toward that teller's area. We can see a little bit of utility being deployed there. We've got a bulletproof camera to deal with that main lobby, castle barricade, half reinforced wall, a Rooney gates, all of the things that are going to soak up that time.
Also going to have Fantasy switching things up just a bit. We'll have the Flores in for the first time here, so those Rotero drones will come into play. Possibly able to clean up some utility, but the big thing here is that those bulletproofs can actually prevent those from actually hitting their mark. So we'll see if Elevate will be manning those for some time. But Fantasy, he's not worried about Rotero drones. He's worried about killing people. And I believe that they think someone's down here at the end of the hallway. Oh yes, they haven't even marked it out. It's actually Fantasy, I believe, that pings it himself and also gets the kill onto Ney.
Elevate player inside of the elevator. That's not going to get old on Bank at all. Ney going to be the first blood there as the Oryx. Your job is to play that aggressive roam game. You're that guy that is going to be making those quick fire rotations, maybe even trying to hop yourself up through a hatch. You can think about where the site is, and there's plenty of hatches below. We saw them last round. It's not a great position to be losing your life in the opening minute of the round. It's going to give the top floor control over toward FURIA, and with Highs on the sledge, he's going to have a free rite of passage to just rip open that floor.
On Miracle's already over on the other end, applying pressure through lobby as well, and really no answer from Elevate in the current moment. They can have some information inside of the space, but the pressure just seems to be too broad as Linda takes down Onigiri inside of Archives. Where are the remaining members of this team? They simply can't fight back at the moment.
And with these vertical angles getting opened, it's only going to get more difficult. If there are players on that ground floor ready to collect the kills like Miracle, then the rotations are even more deadly. All you can hear inside of the site at the moment is that sledgehammer ripping open above you, and Highs is just peeking around onto angles previously made. There's lots of time to gather information here for FURIA as we see a C4 fly out. It is not going to connect, as I believe that the info could be lacking somewhat for Elevate.
Yeah, this is where things get scary for the defense here. Lacking information, they're fighting ghosts and starting to throw utility out willy-nilly. Nitro Cell goes out, won't obviously hit its mark, but neither will that nade. I think it bounces back, and it will indeed. Catches those X-Kyro, so unfortunately enough for FURIA, doesn't look like they'll have access to the wall for the time being, as they'll have to get Rare to move across the map and blow that wall instead. But he's actually all the way upstairs, and this has allowed Elevate to find some footing underneath them inside of the site. They'll take down Highs, but not before Miracle can strike onto Sapper.
DHC has got a long ways to go here. He's going to be able to find himself one. Look at the amount of pings that guy's got. He had red pings for days, but it didn't matter because FURIA had the man count. They had the advantage there. We see Rare bursting his way through. That bulletproof camera, great positioning on that. Little bit further back, it was just hidden behind the alcove, so you couldn't get it from the window. A nade was required, and with the amount of Aruni gates, well, if a couple of players on Elevated had stayed alive for a little bit longer, that could have gone very differently.
Clearly not a Coconut Bruh sub. I'm just saying. You got to watch those Coconut Bruh videos, man. Nah, but there's a lot of unique spaces inside of this open area that we've seen abused quite often nowadays, and those bulletproofs have gotten even more paramount to success for information on the defense, not only because of, obviously, them not being able to be broken so easily like a traditional camera, but also the fact that they have that laser on them now, too, that we've been talking about. So definitely something that Elevate can abuse, but unfortunately enough for them, they just give up way too much too early. FURIA only having to trade 2 drones for a kill. I think anybody will take that.
Absolutely, and back up to the top floor we go. Now, the big question, are we going to see the same level of aggression? How many Elevate players are going to jump out of windows in this round? Round number 1, we saw 2 players flying themselves out of windows very early on indeed. Are we going to see that again, or is it going to be a little bit more of a tempered approach? It came down to a 1v1, and it was a 1v1. The Elevate were successful, and they were able to get that final kill onto Fantasy and take that round. However, they haven't been successful since. So they're going to be coming back up here to just find a little bit of surety and to stop anybody from running away with this one.
As of right now, it's Rare's world, and Elevate's just living in it, but obviously they want to change that as quickly as possible. Just as a reminder for you guys at home, Bank is most definitely an offender-sided map, and it has been from region to region the entire time since it's came back into play. So it's not all for naught at the moment for Elevate, but they definitely want to get as many rounds as they can on this side.
Miracle is going to open up again. Another opening kill here for FURIA, this time onto Sapper. That is a big, big blow to deal. You know, you're going to be bringing those yokai drones. You need to be getting the value out of them. So early on in the round, we saw him make a rotation with them at around halfway point in the first round. So they're not in their final resting place. Those cameras are not going to be as useful as they were last time.
No, absolutely not. And an interesting place to be, especially at the beginning of the round for Bank. You do not want to be inside of that quad window section. You're going to get punished time and time again, especially if there's no castle barricade there. It's just something that they're always going to try and pre-fire into. And the other issue is they don't have any wall prevention for the elevator hallway, X.
I mean, that's a basic, isn't it? You know, that's one that you want to try and open up as a first port of call. When Hibana's available, that is where Hibana goes. Hibana needs to be opening up that long corridor, cut through the site, cut through stock, not able to rotate there through main stairs as easily, and it really starts to separate people off. And at this point, with a man advantage, FURIA can afford to have Miracle sit on that.
Yeah, they can just be real chill about this entire situation going forward. Could see some punishments coming in soon, but Nay doesn't have that vector. Instead, he's got the TCSG, which we don't get to see too often anymore, but definitely still a shotgun that can be an absolute demon when it comes down to it at range. Possible another pick here, and yes, Lendo hit his mark. DCH goes down, and Elevate starting to lose way too many bodies. Lendo with yet another miracle with the 4th as Elevate are just bleeding kills. Onigiri, the last man to be alive yet again here. He'll get taken out from Miracle at range. What a shot with that Type 89.
Miracle didn't move. He did not move. He opened up the angle, and we were like, yeah, that's a really important angle to make. Hibana needs to be able... They can afford to sit there. He afforded to stay there, and he made it worth his while. He picked up a slew of kills there. FURIA have just dismantled Elevate off that top floor. An entirely different approach. First round, we saw them go for square stairs. This time, no. Main lobby and work their way through, making their way up the main stairs. The adaptation, we didn't even get onto it, was the Capita. We saw the Capital brought, Fireball, smoke, a little bit of cover. Doesn't take much, and all of a sudden things are looking very, very different to how they started out. 3 clean rounds in a row, and Elevate now left to find some answers. We go back downstairs into lockers, and I know what you want to talk about.
Do you?
Go for it.
Oh, I gotta talk about the Nook, man. Come on, you already know. We could see some very interesting things happen here, especially because Elevate haven't really been on top of their game inside of information for these last 3 rounds. The first one, I think you and I were both very surprised with how much they got away with those Echo drones. But this time around, Nook could really deal some serious damage. There's so many avenues for her to be able to transition into the site inside of this space, and also if FURIA gets control of all the hatches like they did the last time, there's plenty of area for Fantasy to simply drop in behind Elevate yet again and have those silent footsteps steps to really sneak up on his opponent.
That's the real danger here. And we can see already that Elevate have gone for a pretty different lineup to what we saw in round number 2. Instead of bringing the Tachanka, they're just leaning into the smoke. They're not bringing the Yokai, they're not bringing the Echo. Hatches already aren't reinforced. We're into the round now, so that's unlikely to happen. They're almost giving that away for free. And why should they bother? Because they haven't brought the Cade. There's so much hard destruction that it doesn't matter if you're going to reinforce that hatch or not, because somebody is going to get it open. But this is a direct approach, and Lender's got a drone working ahead of him. This site is free for the taking.
The prep phase drones will be able to get them some info and start to work in, but Lenda a little too quick to the trigger as he'll get taken out by the SMG-11, but that doesn't mean that we can't see something out of Fantasy as he's already snuck into Garage. This is the most traditional Nook play on Bank that you can possibly get, X.
This is what people think about when they think about Nook. They go, yep, nooking into Garage.
Yep, literally.
That's what we're going to do. Like, that's the plan. I'm not sure if this plan is very well thought out, though, because Lender's died. He's pushed himself into sight. I don't think he used any of his nades. No, we can see that he didn't. And Fancy's now here, and he's probably going, Lender, you slow down, bro.
Could you have waited for like a second?
Just wait a little bit. Like, what are we going to do now? We need to come up with a plan. And they're stalling out, and they've wasted a minute so far because everyone at the moment is just holding an angle and trying to gather something on the drone because they've realized, hang on a minute, the site is a bit light here. Everyone's off and about.
Yeah, and that could be the highlight of the round here is the fact that Furia, they're starting to play into Elevate's hand instead of just going for what they originally wanted. Fantasy's now stuck down here. He'll get a kill onto Onigiri, but if the team was here, they'd have something to do. But he can't go forward anymore. He's too low HP.
You've really got to pick what you're doing, whether you're going for the roam clear or whether you are going to go for that, direct to site push. And it seems as though Furia have fallen a little bit in the center of that and not really decided what they want to commit to. We've still got players up on the top floor like Miracle. Nerix going to be opening up some hatches. That's just going to make rotations even easier at this point because, look, minute and 20 left. He can now start to think about dropping down, and the smokes are still going to do a lot of the work here.
Still have some rotations out of Elevate and Rare. Not exactly a good read onto this situation. Nay with the possibility of 2 here. Can he claim the first, though? Plenty of damage onto him, and he can't get any shots to land. Rare take very minimal HP, but Sapper's there to deal the lethal damage instead. Fantasy trying to sneak in behind, but he's on low HP as well. But so is Nay. Fantasy will finally get those shots to land out of the FMG-9. It was a little wild there for just a second, but he'll be able to right that and get that frag that they desperately needed.
The question is, can they win this 2v3? It's a position that Elevate are really well set up for at the moment. We see a player like Nerix there. He's got the bulletproof camera to work with. He's heard the goo mine go off. Fantasy knows that there's likely going to be somebody still inside of open, but slowly but surely these Elevate players can just continue to drop and pile that pressure now onto Furia. Miracle's going to make a rotation, look to open himself up a line of sight into the old vault, but another goo mine. It's just giving the game away one step at a time. Nerix, he's got a little punch hole there that he's going to make full use of. Whether he finds Fantasy or not remains to be seen. Miracle's got to go pretty big here. He's going to get the call and will find the kill, but he's only got 10 seconds and 2 kills to find. Draws for the bear in 9. Desperate times, desperate measures. The final kill flies on in as expected, and Elevate adapt beautifully there on that Locker's defense.
Masterfully done there, but for Furia, we have to go back to the point we made earlier in the round. You have to commit to your idea. If you guys want to go direct to site, don't half-ass it. Don't go with just 2 people downstairs and one of them being overly aggressive in comparison to the other. You have to time these things out properly, and they'll get punished for that.
They really will, and if they'd have gone for the roam clear like they did in round 2, they'd have probably been fine. Because we know that they can drone, we know that they like to have a couple of drones working ahead of them, and they would have discovered, hang on a minute, these hatches aren't reinforced. That's a problem. What have they got? A lot of impact grenades and Oryx. Right, these guys are out for the roam and they're looking to get back to site late, if at all. They might just happy to be playing the life and die on the roam. Good adaptation from Elevate. They've read into that really well, and we've seen a lack of change there from Furia, kind of just deciding a plan at the start of the round and sort of going, this is our plan and we're not changing regardless of what things look like. Now we move once again back into the open area, and yet we see more changes. A couple of new things inside of this one. Elevate have gone for quite a different lineup. We're actually seeing a Mozzie, a Pulse, and a Thunderbird brought along for a little bit of fun. And then on the flip side, we have the Lion. Is the Lion the answer?
Honestly, it could be. The big thing, though, that comes along with Lion is that you have to have information initially to make these EE1Ds actually work, because they make everybody stand still. It's a good old game of freeze tag. So we'll have to see if Furia can possibly get this going, but this could be for something else as well. I mean, Furia have been quite aggressive towards the site. They could just stack and go for it at the end of the day.
It seems like that kind of game.
It really does, doesn't it?
Let's be honest, it seems like that kind of game where we're just going to see heavy site presence early on into the round. They just getting themselves there to that front door, removing the drone. It just gives Miracle something to think about. He's not going to as easily just be able to waltz his way through as he did previously, putting that pressure on to Tellers straight away. Instead, he looks a little bit unsure, gets himself on the rappel, dips back off, but the Pulse is going to be able to gather a lot of intel here and call out very quickly. And don't forget, we've got players that can move very quickly as well. That little burst of speed from Oryx is certainly going to be enough to try and make something happen.
Well, hopefully something does happen for Nay. It's definitely happening for Nerix as he lands a beautiful shot, but not before Highs can refrag him. So we'll equalize here, but Sapper will obviously have a read on this. It's not every day that you get to see somebody occupy ATMs inside of a professional match, but it works out for Nay at the end of the day, so he'll find his first kill.
It's a classic rank spot there, a little bit of a rat corner, just trying to play for one, and it's perfect because no one was there to trade Miracle. He was pushing in on that solo, and when he's a lot of the hard support inside of this round, that's a little bit of a worry. We're now looking toward Highs for that hard breach blowtorch to really do a lot of work, if they even get into a position to do so. They struggled to open the wall into Staff in the previous attempt on this site, and who's to say it's not going to be any different here. Currently, Elevate ahead by 1, and still with Sapper able to gather all that info. If you're on the top floor and you're Furia, you are not safe here. You are going to get called out and you are going to get known.
Yeah, and the other issue as well is that Nay able to sneak up the hallway here. Luckily enough, though, he'll shoot the drone and dip off instead, recognizing that, well, more than likely Furia know that I'm here now, that I've shot this drone, so I'm just going to escape instead. Now for Furia, though, although they do have top control, they have no soft destruction to be able to abuse it. So this is going to be more of a transition down to the mid floor, where we now see Furia currently built up inside of Square. They need to get this wall open so that they can start working in towards Kitchen, but that's going to require a lot of heavy lifting with that blowtorch.
There's some serious gunfights that need to be won now. Highs is going to start to try and open this wall. He might just give himself a line to work with, as Lender's going to be backing him up there. We can hear smoke canisters going off in the distance. Onigiri is primed and ready to peek onto said line as well, as Sapper still gathers that information. The heartbeat scanner here, it is worth its weight in gold. Nay on the rotation. This is going to end badly.
Terribly, honestly, and Rare, as sneaky as he thinks he is, he's not going to get anything past this cardiac sensor. That's the beauty of it, and why we see Pulse pick so often inside of professional play. Onigiri will go down, but all of a sudden, Furia pick up 2 kills. It's winnable inside of the last 20 seconds. Elevate, what has happened? Highs picks up Nay as well. Apparently, the cardiac sensor can't get enough information for Elevate. Sapper only has his pistol out as well. Can he land these crucial shots? He knows one's close. Did he see his head over the cubicle? He did not. He's trying to track him down, but the plant goes off. They're going to stand up on the back end here in just a second, and now Sapper stuck inside of the small office. He'll get dusted by Lenda through the wall. And Fantasy, the rest of Furia, able to get things done in a round that they should have had no chance in winning.
We'd penciled that one in as an Elevate round right from the get-go. You know, we saw the setup, we saw that last 30 seconds and how it was going to unfold. Heartbeat scanner. Hello? Do we need a lesson? Do we need like heartbeat scanner pulse 101? Like that thing is going to find a heartbeat. Maybe Fury haven't got heart. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe no one. Maybe they're just cold, stone cold killers. You never know. But there was information there, and there was information to be used. There was information to be gained and acted upon. And for that many kills to go down for Furia, it shows either a lack of communication. There was nobody. You know, maybe Sapper wasn't on the heartbeat scanner. Something was going wrong there, because that really oughtn't to happen. Sapper still had a C4. You know, he flicks onto the heartbeat scanner, sees a plant going down, sees a body, sees a player, just C4 goes out, wins on time. He had the pistol in his hand as well. I'm not sure if he brought the shotgun in that round and was then maybe unable to take as many engagements as he wanted, but little bit of a whoopsie there from Elevate, and it's going to cost them. They are going to go out of that first phase 2 rounds to 4. Now, you've already said attacker-sided bank is sometimes a thing, and I would argue with the way that the bans are looking here, there's no different. There's a wealth of hard breach available, but now it's time for Elevate to do exactly the same.
Yeah, you know, with these offensive bans like you're talking about, really the only thing that's going to be lacking is a slight amount of information if you did usually bring Jackal inside of your lineup. But as a professional team, if you can't drone, we already have a problem, sweetheart. You better fix that. So for Elevate, we're really looking at them to find information early here, but this just might be decided early in general. Nay's picked up an op that we don't get to see enough of just because she's so very fun. Not for literally any other reason. It's going to be Amaru.
Flying out of windows, flying into windows, really what is the difference at this point? Nay's going to get themselves straight upstairs and try and get on with that roam clear. It's a huge audio cue, it's a huge sound, and it's a shot that Lender is going to absolutely nail. That was very short-lived.
Shook the dinner bell on that window entry there. He knew he was coming into CEO, and now all of Elevate has tried to move up to compensate for this. They need to try and find a kill, but there's blood in the water, and it's from the offensive side.
While the top floor might look in the hands of Elevate right now, Still is a long way to go. There's potential for a rotation as well if FURIA choose to do so, but they've just seemed to have taken that opening engagement and dipped on back. Onigiri getting himself into a little gunfight there in Tellers. He's going to be going up against Fancy, and Fancy's just lining them up and knocking them down. Good night indeed. More presence now coming into the ATM area as an E1D comes out, but it's arguably a bit too little too late. Beautiful peek from DCH there, shutting Fantasy down.
Biggest problem right now for Elevate is, also for FURIA in a certain sense on their offensive side, where is the soft destruction coming in for these people? We were just not seeing any of this. Heist is also going to get a kill onto DCH. Not rocking the M590, has the FMG9 instead with the 1.5. And honestly, it's a beautiful setup to use on Smoke every once in a while. Same thing for Mute if you wanted to consider his MP5K. Another EE1D out here for the Lion for Nerix, but it's basically for no reason. They have zero information. He's just popping that to see if maybe Sapper can do something, but look at Sapper right now. He's just inside of electrical staring at a barricade.
Well, it's a barricade that's going to make a noise, and it's a noise that's going to attract FURIA. At this point, not really able to do all too much. I mean, everything's barricaded here. We've got the top of Blue barricaded as well, and we've got Lender just sat staring at that. So it does seem like a little bit of a stalemate, but FURIA are showing great patience here. They've got a significant advantage, but they're not looking to press it. It could be a little bit of a sneak through that dirt tunnel, but Lender is already primed and looking the correct way. No potential for a trade here. As Nerix lets out yet another EE1D. It will be his last, and this could very well be a freebie. Sapper, he has the info, and he's actually been able to catch Lender out there. 40 seconds, there is technically enough time here.
He stared at the bottom of that staircase for so very long, but sometimes Siege just breaks down that way. It's the timing that allows Elevate to now find some space and work this area. Looking for a possible soft spot inside of the wall where a Mute Jammer wouldn't be, but since they don't have any grenades or anything else, they won't be able to clear this. It's going to be the funnel from Elevate. There's a smoke out for the window, or rather the door here into kitchen, but more smokes out, the toxic kind, into small office. They've now transitioned all the way over into the elevator area, but Sapper tries to transition straight in through that office and gets gunned down by Miracle. Nerix trying to work the beepers here, but it's hot.
You mentioned Miracle. You can mention any of them at the moment because they're all very much of a muchness. A spread of 8-5. That isn't a real big deal there when you look top through bottom. Rare sitting top of the pops as he is on the support, and what a good support he has been in this map. Elevate, you have had your time to talk. You have had your time to figure things out. You've gone searching, and you have come back with an answer. And the answer is the Nook. Second time we're going to be seeing it here and now. Not only have we got the Lion, but Dokubi's joined the party as well.
Hey, that could be quite interesting. You know what we could see? Oh my god, X. Look at this lineup, actually. Nook, Lion, and Dokubi all inside of the same pool. We're in for a treat here. Now, which way it goes, that's really up in the air, but we're definitely going to see an electric Elevate at least here for round 8. Now, all things considered, the big scare for me right now is it's almost like FURIA have just Amazon delivered as many body bags as they possibly can, because I completely agree with you. This team's firing on all cylinders, and I don't know how you shut them down in the current moment without Elevate able to take these gunfights. I mean, just look at Nay in the current moment, 1-7-2, and he's had some prime opportunities to be able to catch some frags. The only chance that he had to actually get a kill was that exchange inside of ATM.
And he is one of the culprits for flying in and out of windows a little bit too frequently, so you've got to question the play at that point. If you're not on the server for very long, you're not going to have that much of an impact. You need to be seeing these rounds out right up until the bitter end to have the best chance of picking up a couple of kills and having a reasonable impact. Let's see where the Nook gets deployed. It's more than likely going to be in through the big garage, but we will await and see just exactly what's going to happen here.
Oh, he's got the Banshee.
Conscious of that. I mean, the thing is, you're trying to do to FURIA what they did to you. Like, they're going to be aware of that, surely. And the Banshee is going to be an audio cue. It's something to think about. Eric's already timid, slow, not really taking that initiative.
Yeah, they got the bulletproof here as well, so even if he did nade that out and they just heard an explosion off somewhere, because obviously it's quite deep into the garage, they're still going to have info as to what's gone on in this space, and they'll clearly know that Elevate are trying for a very similar play to their own. We really want to see an audible called here. There's still plenty of utility at their disposal to make this happen, but Heis is going to answer this call. We should see the activation of the Nook here, but does he get there in time? Nerix doesn't move an inch, still waiting on the opposite side of the police car as they begin to stall out.
I mean, that was the time to move if there was any. Now we see the activation come, and he's going to try and make his way up. There's a little bit of a presence in on this top floor as well. It was coupled with the logic bomb, but we are going to see the Banshee get removed now. But Heist can just jump back into this bulletproof, and there's no real need to peek this. We've already seen the patience that FURIA is able to show here. A bit of a swing, and it's going to be straight into Lender, bolstering Heist there inside of that garage, recognizing that's where the push was coming from, and doubling down to pick the kill.
Terrifying stuff here from FURIA, as they are simply the obstacle in the way of Elevate right now, but DCH apparently has something for that, and it's the sauce out of the V308. He'll give it to Miracle, who's had a stellar game thus far and a stellar land overall, as he's been showing it for FURIA time and time again. Onigiri trying to collapse on top from the hatch, but it's a Nitro Cell through to claim his life from Rare.
It's the DMR really punishing Onigiri there as he saw the C4 coming through, and it just passes through the bullets as the slow fire rate doesn't do him any favors whatsoever. Fantasy in behind the server stack. He's got his eyes there on the bottom of blue stairs, and he's going to go for a fairly aggressive swing here. There's 35 seconds left. There's an argument to say you didn't need to do that. That could have given them a little bit of an in here.
Oh, it's very damning now, especially with Miracle off the board, no Nitro Cell in Rare's pockets. They have to shoot them, X. That's the only way to stop this in the current moment. They have to step up to the plate and swing hard for this. DCH on the Overwatch, deep drone here for Nay, and this is where the rubber hits the road. This is going to be a lot of fun going here to the last 10 seconds. Sapper has to apply himself to the situation. Nay drops in, but the stun grenade will catch him. The plant starts, Rare gets one, as they're all going to step up here. DCH looking, but FURIA, they get it past the smoke, which actually hinders the offense more than it does the defense.
Sometimes the smoke is your worst enemy, and sometimes it is your best friend. In that circumstance, it's Elevate's worst enemy because it gave the cover. Rare was then able to just punch through the smoke and hit them on the side. And when you see Elevate left desperately pre-firing through that smoke, you think if the smoke wasn't there, you would have probably got the kill. Heart-wrenching stuff. It's going to put FURIA onto a map point here. What feels like very early on in the series, but we've been through the ringer already. These rounds have been electric. They've been very, very back and forth. It's now a question, where do Elevate turn? Another round and yet another change. We're actually seeing the OSA be brought here again. Say less.
Six
Maybe
pick.
we're going to see the 6 on that one. There isn't a lot of time to lock that one through, and it's going to be an OSA for an OSA. So, still using the 6 pick, but you're likely going to know what you are to expect here. Now, Lender's actually brought the Warden.
Yeah, and with what we just saw the last round, that could be even more trouble for Elevate, because more than likely they're going to try and trust a smoke or something along those lines, or Lenda might be just playing inside of the elevator hallway over here by stocks. We see this deployable shield placed here quite a lot, so more than likely going to have this inside of this area here. They'll probably apply it later on, but we could have a good staring contest coming in with Onigiri and these OSA shields as well, so could be pretty interesting. But honestly, I like Onigiri's choice here, because we could see him actually apply these to the CEO windows, which could lead to some pretty interesting interactions inside of the actual site.
There would be worse places to put them than on those windows, because it's going to give you a little bit more to peek off as an attacker. And of course, it deters the defenders just a little bit. There's a lot more to think about when you worry about the fact of a bulletproof shield being there on the window as well. Throw that in with somebody on upside down repel, and things start to get really difficult then to try and make anything work through. So we'll see where they are choosing to place them. Onigiri has got himself on the repel now, and you would imagine that's where they're going to be. But looks as though they're just waiting for that main lobby to be called as clear before they push on through. They don't want to give anything away too softly.
Well, looks like it's exactly going to be the case that we thought it was. And Nerix on the upside down repel, just as you predicted, trying to work this as well as they can. But the big thing right now is, well, actually, no, Fantasy's burned his impact, so it's going to have to be the Nitro Cells to try and get rid of these. And look at Onigiri constantly faking the OSA shield on the window time and time again, seeing if he can possibly get anybody to burn some utility here. This is a really smart play around these OSA shields.
It's a nice way to burst the window in one go as well. It saves a little bit of utility, and it gives you that little bit of information. It's like playing Blitz with a shield out or a Monty with a shield out, but on the repel. It's gathered them information. It's not giving them a kill, but it's just giving FURIA something to think about here. Fantasy on the Yokai. He's going to be able to ping out a couple of people inside of main lobby as Rare gets himself into a bit of a skirmish. Might think about dropping himself down the hatch, and if he did, he'd come to blows very quickly with Nay. 2 grenades in hands. They could very well get sailed on through the hatch, but the opening kill is going to come on to the OSA that we have talked about oh so much.
Oh, a little bit of damage to both sides, and now Fantasy. Oh, beautiful kills coming out of him and that MP5 SD as he puts Elevate 6 feet deep. There's only 2 kills remaining for Furia to collect as they're looking to take their map choice in bank. Frag grenade out, Nitro Cell down, but that'll get blown sky high from that frag grenade. Minute and 10 seconds left for Elevate to get something done here. I love the Osa choice, probably the most practical sense that we've seen her applied through this entire tournament, but it just doesn't do anything for Elevate.
It really is a shame because it's an ingenious use of the operator, but it really just didn't come to all too much. Skirmishes continue to happen here, and with Fantasy down but not out, there is still the potential to close things out here as a flawless round, and a flawless round it will be. Highs from the hatch, makes the rotation, and is able to find the kneecaps there. Collecting that final kill, Furia, what a performance on bank, 7 rounds to 2.
Incredible stuff from them, especially able to play around Elevate's very unique play style. That's something that really throws a lot of people off.